Hey everyone, I'll just be upfront that this might not be the most carefully researched and informative thing of a video because I just don't fully have a handle on it yet, but I'm just trying to express a moment of hurt that a lot of people are kind of going through right now in a chaotic situation, and I just want to discuss this, why it matters, and maybe direct some of the energy towards some kind of solutions, or at least any kind of thing we can do here. So, I'm on itch.io right now, and we have the tags visual novel and furry, and you might notice that this is just not what that's supposed to look like. Also, sorry, I just moved. I haven't found my webcam yet. This room isn't sound treated. I don't have lights. I'm in chaos right now. But yeah, this is just all the wrong games, and it's not the slight roads yet traveled and lookouts and stuff like that, but these are not the most popular furry visual novels by any stretch of the imagination. In fact, very quickly, all the way right here, we're already at a game from 14 months ago from the Maywolf Game Jam. And then down here, the 2 years ago winner of the Maywolf Game Jam. Like, this is just not really active fandom. These are not the big trending games in the fandom. This is just kind of like relics of the past, like Nekojishi, some one-off things, smaller projects. And the thing that all these have in common is that they're safe for work, basically. And that's because all NSFW content has now been shadow banned on itch.io, which has led to the results where I can now go on here and I can type Ad Astra, and it's just not here. There's some derivative works or unrelated things that happen to be called Ad Astra, but the actual game Ad Astra with the Space Wolves and Amicus and so on, the most popular furry visual novel in the space, is gone. And that's already a rough place to start. Like, for those that are finding this video out of context, hi, I'm Keith. I have a Let's Play channel that I've been running since like 2013. I also have a video essay channel I've been running since like 2021 or something. And I had a public coming out a few years ago where I did all this in the closet as a gay man for years, and I just came out like 3 years ago. And it was in part because I played Ad Astra, and it really resonated with me, as silly as that might sound. There's the elements of the story really hit me in just the right way and just the right time, and it led to me coming out, and it basically changed my life. So that's not an uncommon thing. Like, furry visual novels, furry art in general has a sort of a disarming effect where it lets people be themselves and better themselves. And it's also very specifically a community built around queer art. And that's very important. And having that disappear is upsetting. Like, this is just gone. Like, let's try Echo. There's a lot of things here called Echo, but none of this is the game Echo. There's it looks like a Chinese translation of Echo right here, but Echo is just gone. You can't find Echo. Okay, what about games that don't even have sex scenes in them? It's like, yeah, Ad Astra's porn, and I defend that. Furry visual novels, a lot of furry stuff in general, I think it's interesting that it specifically will tell you this very earnest, dozens of hours long storyline with themes and character arcs and real, like, careful writing, but then it will just become porn for 20 minutes here and there, and that's also part of the story. It's meant to be taken simultaneously. It's meant to be engaged with sincerely, and it's part of that expression. And this has been a space where people have been allowed to do this for a while, and it's just gone now. But sure, let's check out Glory Hounds, a game that has 0 sex scenes in it. It just has a scene where you wake up in the bed with somebody after one night down. It's gone. Let's do Since November, the game that I made, inspired by this community after engaging with it and immersing with it for so long. My game is just not here. You can't find it. Okay. Remember the Flowers is a very popular furry visual novel that's made by a sex-repulsed asexual. Nope, it's not here. There's one derivative fan work thing about a picture, a replacement sprite idea. Nope, the actual game is just gone. You can't find Remember the Flowers, a game where the creator doesn't want sex in it because he doesn't have any interest in that. It's all gone. And it's like, here, what's especially frustrating is that I think that some of these games are a victim of the fact that furries were already being hyper vigilant and careful with their labeling. Almost any furry visual novel even the ones that don't feature any actual cock and balls will call themselves a 18 plus game because they have adult themes or something, because we're so, and it's some of it's like queer shame and fear of backlash and homophobia and so on, but there's always this element of like being like, no, all minors stay away from this, keep everyone around away from this. I'll label it as carefully as possible, and as like, and then we'll overlabel things that might be adult in any way, to keep so that we have our ass covered there and so on, and that everyone's safe and so on. But it's led to the result of like games that are not pornographic are being they're being purged alongside NSFW content. This game is not NSFW, but it's gone because they labeled it as having adult themes on some level, and so now it's just gone altogether. Hooray! Great. This is fucking awful. This is awful. And like I'm on Furry Blue Sky. I'm in a bunch of furry visual novel creator discords. Just a lot of people are very upset right now, and a lot of things are just very precarious, and it's very stressful because this is some people's livelihoods, but in many more cases just a space where people have been dedicating years of their lives and forming friendships and community all around creating and sharing and working on this art and what it means to them. Like this is literally a queer subculture that is being actively suppressed right now. For context of what's happened in the moment and the chaos of all this, yesterday, somebody in the itch.io staff posted a salute emoji in their Discord, and then all of this content was shadow banned just out of nowhere with no warning. And then it took about 5 hours, from what I'm hearing, for them to finally post an update explaining at all what's going on, which is basically that they've been pressured by credit card companies and payment processors to purge NSFW content because of specific objectionable stuff, but it's led to the need to just take down the entire category across the board and then do an audit of all of the existing content in an attempt to meet these demands. And this has been in part caused by this group here, Collective Shout, which frames themselves as an anti-exploitation feminist organization, but a lot of people are claiming that they are affiliated with religious organizations and TERFs and so on. And if nothing else, the results of their behaviors are quite off topic from their stated goals. If they're supposedly trying to stop child exploitation, purging a bunch of gay furry content is just wildly off topic and not. So like the results of their behavior is just massively damaging to unrelated people that aren't doing anything wrong. And this is just very frustrating because like I have personal stakes in this. Like I know so many people in this community who are hurt by this. A lot of people are panicking about what their future looks like. And even if this gets reversed, there's just this precarity now, this worry. And maybe this will be the shock in the system that will lead to people making new platforms just for this stuff. And maybe it won't. I don't know if people can afford to handle the hosting for all this stuff without having access to a platform like Steam or itch.io to actually handle the game distribution. But even if people are able to silo this content off to separate places and migrate to new places, there is something upsetting about the idea that queer people have to move their art off platform to their own isolated places, not only because that place can then be targeted by the same campaigns to be blacklisted by payment processors more easily because there's no one else is being caught up in it, but also because queer people exist in mainstream society. So queer art should also have access to the same spaces as other people's art. It shouldn't have to be in a completely separate space. Remember the Flowers and whatnot should not be purged from existence. And this entire community of people that have been building this stuff for years shouldn't just cease to functionally show up overnight. So the way this works right now is that We don't show up under the tags, even the ones that would explicitly bring up the games that we are. As I just showed you, when you type in the names of games, we don't come up in the results. All of our games have been shadow banned. And also, if you do visit the page of an NSFW game, they do still exist for now. But if you click the download button, it does not suggest any other related games. So we're further shadow banned even there, where there's no discovery algorithm. There is no people like that, like this, also like this kind of thing. So there's no system for discovering these games anywhere on the platform. You need to be specifically linked the exact store page via an outside source, like a YouTube video description, a tweet, a Discord message, a text message, Telegram, so on. You cannot discover these games in any way on the entire website via any of the tools. They will just refuse to show it absolutely at all. You need the exact URL. And they've mentioned that some games will not be coming back and some games will. So there's this upsetting uncertainty of not being sure where the line is going to be drawn here, and who's going to be affected in the long term, and who will show up again, and what games will be explicitly taken down, not just shadow banned, but gone for good. In the meantime, we have access to fvn.li, which is this website right here that can show you. This is your replacement right now for being able to browse furry visual novels. This was a third-party website that links and scrapes the data from itch.io, specifically within this subgenre. You can see oftentimes how long a story is in word count, the creator name, the game name, whether it's NSFW or SFW, when it was published, what its overall score and tags are, and so on. And if you go up in here, you can do a lot of filtering to get specific things to show up, and so on, and sort by word count, review count. Like, you can try to navigate via that. So this is at least a temporary replacement for the situation, but unfortunately, this will not save us if the games are actually taken down in any real way, because this is just, in its current form, a way of browsing and navigating the furry visual novels on itch.io. So if the files are no longer hosted on itch.io, then this won't help you find the games anyway. So this is stressful. I am not psyched about it. I don't have the most organized thoughts right now. It's just I'm upset because a lot of my friends are upset, and a lot of people I know are just worried what this means. I want to point out that this is a campaign that's founded in targeting specific kinks and then working from there. But the problem there is that whenever this kind of thing comes up, the definition of what is unacceptable will continue to grow, generally speaking, and any kind of grounds that are seeded tend to expand. And in particular, a ban on NSFW content and a ban on adult content on the internet frequently means a ban on LGBTQ plus content in general. And that is because queerness is frequently defined as obscene, even when it is safe for work. Even when it is not adult content and is just queer stories in a more PG context or PG-13 context, it is still very frequently seen as obscene. So this is always a worrying conversation. It's always a worrying situation to be in, and there is reason to fight back because these kinds of spaces deserve to exist, and this is just not an acceptable solution in any way to any of the problems being proposed, regardless of legitimacy. I would say that at this point that it's basically disingenuous to even bring up the original issue that this is supposedly supposed to be solving, because of how just massively off topic that is and how unrelated it is to the actual results of the actions. But I will say this is an ongoing thing where it's been a problem on Gumroad. It's been a problem on Patreon. A number of platforms have been targeted to remove queer content and kink content and anything that steps out of a certain puritanical conservative worldview from entire platforms. And so queer creators have repeatedly been displaced from different platforms and have been losing their livelihoods and their community because in a weirdly fucked up way, Visa and MasterCard and PayPal and so on can control entire platforms because they control what kind of transactions happen on these platforms. And so when they leverage their control against these platforms, the platforms then buckle in order to give them what they want. And unfortunately, they're using their power to engage in political campaigns and determine what's allowed to exist in commerce, which is a really fucked up power to give these kinds of payment processors. As of right now, it's probably not particularly productive to yell at itch.io over what's happening. They know. They definitely could have handled things better by in any way communicating the stuff up front instead of just pulling the plug without any warning. And they've left people in a lot of uncertainty, and we don't know what they're going to end up doing, and that all sucks. And they're not immune to any level of blame. There's a level of complicitness on some level that is frustrating. But overall, the people that you want to campaign here against are Visa and MasterCard and PayPal. I'll link this exact post in the description, which is a guide on that somebody posted on trying to give people a direction here on what phone numbers to be calling and who to be addressing, who to be emailing to make themselves heard. Particularly because Collective Shout, the organization that caused this latest mess, they bragged about how they're able to cause this uproar over 1,000 phone calls. 1,000 phone calls is a lot, but we can definitely do more than that. So let's make ourselves heard. Let's actually follow through, make these calls, make these emails, and completely eclipse the original uproar and have our voices heard. I think that's all we can particularly do right now. I don't have a lot of answers right now, but this is threatening. I want queer art to continue to thrive, and I don't want it to be hidden away in secret places where it doesn't have reach, where it can't be discovered, because I think that it plays an important role in so many people's lives in their ability to self-actualize and come out of the closet and to find community and safety and people like themselves so they can understand themselves and they can escape abusive situations and family and religion and local culture that holds them back, and be able to steel themselves against a world that would prefer them to be hidden away and to stop expressing themselves and hide themselves back in the closet and go away. That's the end goal for a lot of this stuff. A lot of this turfy bullshit is for all of queerness to go away because it's inconvenient to their worldview. And every queer person has to actively choose to self-represent and to present themselves and to live as themselves every day. And that's a struggle. And when people do these things, people are more likely to give in and go back to the old days of not being themselves and doing what is often easier in the moment, but harmful to themselves as a person. So I don't know, that's the mess. I would love to talk more about this, but I've just been pacing around the house, just upset about this whole fucking mess. Check out this link in the description, probably the pinned comment. I hope that things get reverted as soon as possible and that this doesn't expand and get worse. But a lot of people right now do not know what tomorrow looks like, and that is an upsetting thing to see in my entire community right now. I'll see you guys next time.